Is now in session. Madam Secretary, please call the row.
Senator Gannon.
Here.
Senator Crawford.
Here.
Senator Carter. Senator Coleman. Senator Koenig.
Here.
Senator Rizzo. Senator Washington.
Here. We have a quorum. We are going to move into an executive session. Do I have a second?
Second.
A voice vote. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. I move that we take up Senate Bill 1431. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes appear to have it. This is Senator Bernsketter's bill relating to entertainment districts. Is there any discussion on the bill? Seeing none, I move that we vote Senate Bill 1431 out of committee do pass. Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any questions? Madam Secretary, please call the row.
Senator Gannon.
Aye.
Senator Crawford.
Aye.
Senator Carter. Senator Coleman. Senator Koenig. Senator Rizzo. Senator Washington.
Aye.
5-0.
By your vote of 5-0, Senate Bill 1431 is due pass. We will now go out of executive session.
Oh, yeah, 1604. I'm sorry.
I thought you said, wait.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yep, no.
Okay, there you go. I apologize. We are still in executive session. I move that we take up House Bill 1604. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes appear to have it. This is Representative Hinman's bill modifying the filing period for candidates in local elections. Is there any discussion on the bill? I move that we vote House Bill 1604 out of committee do pass. Do I have a second? Is there any discussion? Madam Secretary, please call the row.
Senator Gannon.
Aye.
Senator Crawford.
Aye.
Senator Carter. Senator Coleman. Senator Koenig. Senator Rizzo. Senator Washington.
Aye.
5-0.
By your vote of 5-0, House Bill 1604 is due pass. Now we really move out of executive session. Now we're going to hear Senator McCreery's Senate Bill 1324. Senator, you may proceed when you are ready.
Thank you, Senator. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for hearing this bill, Senate Bill 1324. I'm Senator Tracy McCreery. I represent St. Louis County. One of the reasons I filed this bill is there are a lot of Missourians, by some accounts over 900,000 Missourians live in over 5,700 community associations. So there are a lot of homeowners associations out there, and a lot of folks, myself included, live in a neighborhood that is governed by HOA bylaws. I served as a trustee in my subdivision years ago, and I will maintain that it was the toughest elected job I've ever had, much harder than being a state senator or a state representative, because you're dealing with things that are really very personal to people. And, because most of our constituents, quite honestly, they hold most of their wealth in their homes. So, people get very passionate about those things. So I appreciate you hearing this bill this afternoon. After I filed the bill, I heard from countless people in opposition to the bill and also some folks in favor as well, and I appreciate your indulgence this afternoon. I think this will be helpful for me to just hear all the different perspectives and sides on this, so thank you for hearing the bill. And with that, I'm happy to take questions.
Do we have questions from the committee? Senator Koenig?
So I know many years ago, I'm not sure, I believe Representative Kurt Barr had a bill allowing yard sign, or kind of forcing HOAs to allow political yard signs for a period of time. Would you be open to expanding that to like 3 weeks before an election?
I would be, and for example, in my community where I live, The city ordinance regulates yard signs, so it does allow for political yard signs to be out a month
Yeah, a
before the
month, right.
election.
Yeah,
But then they
that's
have to be
pretty-
picked up or disposed of within 10 days after
Yeah.
the election. So, yeah, I'm open to that kind of thing. Thanks. Yeah, that original court case, Gillio versus City of Ladue, happened in my state senate district, so I'm very aware of political speech. Thank you.
I have never lived in a subdivision that has an HOA, so I'm really not up on this, but does the committee for the HOA change things often, or once the subdivision opens, there's an HOA, do they have their standards and that's what it is?
Well, I'm assuming every HOA is different, which I think is one of the challenges in the state of Missouri. But we all have our own operating bylaws that, that the neighbors vote on and get approved. So we have ways that we operate meetings. In the community where I live, it's an important group of elected officials because they take care of our finances. So we have a lot of common ground, including a park that is part of our neighborhood. And then we wanted to have curbs. Some streets in Olivet, the streets just run right into people's yards, and so what happens is people drive into people's yards. So we wanted to have curbs so that cars stayed on the road. So we set up a special fund where each homeowner pays into a fund that built the curbs and maintains the curbs. So, I think that is one of the main responsibilities, in my opinion, of trustees, is they have to be good fiscal stewards and make sure that they're taking care of the common area.
Okay, do you pay HOA fees every year,
I think they can be handled differently. The one I'm familiar with is they're due annually, and they can be, you have to pay in order to be able to vote, for example. So
Okay.
if you haven't paid your dues, you're not able to vote at the annual meeting for new officers and that kind of thing.
Okay. Are there any other questions from the committee? Okay, seeing none, we're going to go with witnesses in support first. So would the first witness like to come forward, please?
Thank you. My name is Todd Billy. I'm an attorney at Sandbrook Phoenix. I specialize in what we call community association law. So that is representing the approximately 900,000 residents of Missouri that live in a condo or HOA. We also represent developers. So you're going to hear a lot of testimony in opposition because we heard it in the House that is simply incorrect. So let's walk through how an HOA is formed. Usually you have simply someone who wants to build houses. Usually it's houses. Doesn't have to be, but usually is. So if they have the means, they don't have to go to a lender, but they can. And if they go to a construction lender, that gets recorded first. That is a security interest on the land. Then the developer, whenever they're ready, will record what is often referred to as a declaration. If you hear the term indenture, it's really the same thing. It's actually a cultural difference as to why in St. Louis we have indentures of trust. In Kansas City we usually have declarations. It's just same thing. And once the developer creates the declaration, they have certain rights, and some of those rights are they can change what they want to build if they want. They can set up whatever restrictions they want, chicken bill, signs, realtors, pets, whatever they want, they set it. And then eventually they will transfer control over to the homeowners. But that doesn't impact their rights to develop. It's up to them. So what you're going to hear a lot about today in the opposition is oh, well, the builders need total control. Well, in some instances, they do. Homeowners reach out to me. They have been under developer control for 40 years. They have no voice. They have no say. This bill doesn't change that at all. And we can disagree as to whether or not that's right or not, but the HBA has made it clear that they have no interest in having anybody say when they should transfer control. And we don't change that. The developer can set when they transfer control. They can also establish whatever developer rights they have. So if they want to say, hey, we're going to do, especially for 2008, this was a very powerful tool, we're anticipating 1 acre lots or only single family detached. and they needed to change their model, and then they want to go to villa style. Perfectly fine. This doesn't change that. And the HBA likes to say that they don't, and the lenders like to say that we're messing with them, and we're not. Because we made it very, very clear, it's actually in here, no provision of these sections shall impact, hinder, impair, alter, or affect the rights of the declarant, which is the developer, to administer, develop, construct, or convey real property subject to the declaration. We're not touching them. And they get to pick when they transfer control, which, if we go through this bill, which is only 6 pages at this point, a lot of sections start with after the developer has transitioned control, which they said. But they will tell you somehow we're impacting their rights. So it's incredibly important to understand that what we're trying to do here is we have a lot of associations which come in so many different varieties. At the lake, the most common one is actually a road association. That's an HOA. It's a private road. They all throw in money, and they got to take care of that road. All the way to, Ms. Miller will talk about Lake of the Ozarks Four Seasons, Innsbruck, Lake Sherwood. Those look like cities. They're just HOAs. Okay? Now, we can debate as to whether or not that's good policy or not, but they're HOAs. Okay? So what we have is, the struggle we have, and actually at noon we were testifying on the chicken bill in the House, and the state representative out of St. Louis County made a point of the HOA just can't even get board members. They can't even get responses. And that's really what this bill is designed to do. We have to break out, after the declarant is gone, we have to break out the accidental and unintended consequences of what the developers did after they left. And what is those? It is very common for a developer to artificially set the assessments too low. It's good salesmanship. Not intentional, but it does help sales. Well, what happens is when you have a clubhouse that needs $1 million worth of work and your assessments are artificially low and you can't increase them, what have you just done? You've created a systemic failure. Then the association tries to raise the assessments, but because of apathy, they can't. And then they just try to do it anyway because there's some case law in Missouri that suggests they can. And guess what that does? That just puts us into court. Now we have to litigate whether or not that's collected. And that's throughout the state. The last case on this issue came from the Southern District in our Court of Appeals. All of these issues come up, and then it's a matter of, let's say we do want to have chickens, which again, we're not anti-chicken. Let the community decide if they want to have chickens. Let the community decide if they want to have political signs, rein that in, leave that up to them. But apathy gets in the way, certainly if you're any size. And so what this does is it says you have to try to do your amendment, but if you can't because of apathy, we create that safety valve so the community can still move forward. And what does that do? All it does is create the political consequences of the election to be more important. So what else does that do? Well, keeps us out of court, keeps us away from you guys, so you guys don't have to see us every year. And now the internal operations of the association can move forward. We also make it cheaper, because the HBA will complain that somehow this is only for lawyers, and it's not. We even made it easier and cheaper for associations to collect assessments. As part of my job, I collect assessments. I'd rather not. No one grows up saying, I want to go collect that. So what we did was, we said, well, wait a second. The associations, to create some homeowner protection, should be formed as nonprofits, which, oh, by the way, every single major builder does that anyway. They form these HOAs as Missouri nonprofit corporations, so that's not a change. And that provides some homeowner protections. But by doing that, the board members can't go to court pro se. There's also a limit on small claims as to what the rights and remedies can be, like, well, on how you can collect on a judgment. So to make it cheaper, so you don't have to pay lawyers, we create the process of now the associations can go to small claims court by themselves and get a judgment so that they can get paid. Cheaper, faster. So all of this is designed so, frankly, you guys don't have to see us every year, and the associations can solve these issues internally like they should. So with that, are there any questions?
Are there any questions from the committee? Seeing none. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next, in support of the bill. You may begin when you're ready, and make sure you fill out a witness form.
Good afternoon. My name is Della Miller, and I support Senate Bill 1324. With over 30 years of experience as a dedicated manager, I have observed firsthand the challenges HOAs face in our state. Unlike the Missouri Uniform Condominium Act that provides consistency and uniformity in the law across the state, there is no Missouri statutory framework for homeowners associations. And I manage condo associations and homeowners associations. And in the condo associations, when I'm working with boards and they tend to derail or question their authority, it's always nice to refer them back to the condo state statutes. Nobody wants to violate condo state statutes. In Missouri, in the HOAs, we don't have that. Almost every homeowners association is set up differently, and there's no uniformity to that. Senate Bill 1324 addresses a lot of the challenges for HOAs. The bill addresses the obstacle presented by apathy and high voting requirements in HOA governing documents that often hinder necessary amendments and budget approvals. It also addresses the financial constraints imposed by governing documents that restrict the maximum assessment rate, thereby limiting the HOA's ability to fund essential services and maintenance. The inability to make necessary amendments or pass budgets due to apathy and stringent voting requirements not only stifles progress, but it also neglects pressing community issues. When developers create communities, they create the amenities and the common areas that has to be maintained. So as the HOAs transition from developer control over to homeowner management, the reliance on assessments to fund the services and maintenance become paramount. When governing documents impose caps on assessment rates, HOAs struggle to generate sufficient funds to maintain the amenities and fulfill obligations. I've personally witnessed deferred maintenance, safety hazards, and declining property values because of these challenges. Passing Senate Bill 1324 would provide much needed flexibility for HOAs to adjust assessments according to their community's evolving needs and circumstances. And it is important to note that the bill does not invalidate developer rights. I personally manage an association that's been in existence for 54 years. The documents has been amended 5 times, and the developer still maintains some rights. Every time the documents has been amended, he's released a few rights, but he still owns some property and he still maintains some rights. For instance, he can annex more property into the association, and he can take some property out of the association if it's property he owns. So that does not invalidate the developer rights. With that, I urge you to consider Senate Bill 1324 and the profound impact it can have on HOAs and communities across Missouri. Thank you for your attention to this matter and for considering my viewpoints.
Thank you. Any questions for the witness? Seeing none. Thank you. Next, in support of the bill. Seeing none. First in opposition.
Good afternoon, Senator, excuse me, and members of the committee. My name is John Barget. I am appearing here today in opposition to Senate Bill 1324 on behalf of the St. Louis home builders, and I am supposed to mention for Mr. Heath Clarkson, also on behalf of the Central Missouri Home Builders Association. I got a couple things to say. I won't take a lot of time. I would like to thank Senator McCreery for, after she filed this bill, for being very gracious with her time and giving me almost 45 minutes for me to listen to my tale of woe, and as all of you know, I can ramble, so I'm extremely appreciative of you doing that. First and foremost, I'll address a couple of things that were already said, but as I said last week in a House hearing on this very same bill, while I am not an attorney, and we seem to have the crux of this argument being about builders, if the bill started off in simple language saying provisions of this act shall not be in effect until the builder has sold their last lot, I probably won't be sitting here. We all know how homeowners associations are. For those of us that have lived in one, I too have been a board member on one. A lot of the complaints are about who's parking a truck somewhere. Representative Richard West tells a great story that panel trucks were not allowed to be parked on the street of a subdivision in his legislative district. That's what the rules were. Then Tommy Joe across the street got himself elected to the HOA board. Tommy Joe started parking his panel truck on the street and nobody could do anything. I would respectfully suggest to you, as the senator mentioned, these are elected positions. So you have some civil action to go on, or you can go get your neighbors and vote Tommy Joe out. That's how it works. You are elected individuals, and with all due respect, when somebody doesn't like the way that you vote, they don't come here and change the parliamentary procedure by which you voted. They come after the elected official that voted. So that's one thing. So to just simply kind of explain to you, if you take Barget Builders trying to build 30 homes, I go to the bank, the mortgage lender, get a $30 million loan. I set up the HOA. The St. Louis home builders do not build a subdivision that we don't put an HOA in. Of course we're going to have one. But can you imagine what would happen if the 3-member HOA, after 7, 8, 10 homes, has 2 members that are residents, the builder's the third one, they vote 2-1, instead of 30 lots, we're going to take the last 3 lots and make them into pickleball courts and green space. My banker may lend me the money based on I'm going to build 30 homes at $1 million apiece under these conditions. So when these types of things occur, the builder is in a problem area. That trickles back to the banks, the people that work for us, the subcontractors, et cetera. I would respectfully suggest to you that Mr. Billy, who was here earlier testifying in support of, this will be the 4th time since last April that we have been told that this does not impact the builders, the developer, the declarant. All 3 mean the same thing. Mr. Billy has informed us that he knows who my lawyers are at the HBA companies. He knows who these general counsels are. We have said to him, some of the people that will be here after me, go tell them, convince them. Nobody's reached out to them. Our 2 in-house counsels and 1 outside counsel, and the outhouse would not be part of an HOA. Somebody would regulate it, and we would have fees. The outside counsel also joined them in saying, with all due respect, that somebody may have attempted to exclude in a portion of this bill the builder, developer, declarant, but they are clearly not exempted. For some of my other friends on this committee, I might point out to you that this will impact every development that is, I believe, over 3 homes. I don't know how much property Senator Carter has, but if she chose to one day want to build 3 or 4 homes for members of her family, this is a statewide bill. This will be what you will have to go to. It was suggested to me by one of our counsel that to find the true root of the meaning, with all due of this bill, with all due respect, Senator, look at a simple word search of attorneys and fees might be very indicative of what's going on with this. There's a section in here, section 448.325.6 states that a declaration can actually be amended without the consent of the owners. I can provide you with other comments like this. I believe that you get the gist of where we're going from the builder's perspective. And the issues that most people hear about HOAs are after we are out. With all due respect, it's the builder's reputation, the builder's loan, the bank's involved, and we're trying to complete the project we were set out to. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for the witness? Mr. Barget, thank you for... Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Senator. I didn't see your hand. Okay, I was just going to say, Mr. Barget, it's always nice to have a little humor, so thank you for bringing a little humor today.
I am quite a jokester, ma'am.
Yes. Next, in opposition.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, David Kent, registered lobbyist with the Missouri Bankers Association, speaking in opposition to Senate Bill 1324. We agree with Mr. Barget's comments. We've had our general counsel look through this. They agree as well that this could potentially hinder the developer and the bank's ability with the HOAs, and so we just want to be here to testify in opposition.
Thank you. Any questions for the witness? Seeing none, next in opposition.
Madam Chairman, Andy Arnold here on behalf of the Missouri Independent Bankers Association, and for the same reasons that Mr. Barger and the other bankers, when we make a loan on a subdivision, there are certain covenants in that loan regarding how you're getting paid back, what gets released, what doesn't get released. The biggest concern is how you could vote to change the subdivision, and our loan then may change, or we may have to call the loan, which would be even a worse situation.
Any questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you. Next in opposition. Excuse me.
Madam Chairman, members of the committee, Sam Licklider for Missouri Realtors. I will be mercifully brief. You've heard the prior witnesses. We've got a problem if they've got a problem, no matter how serious or how trivial it may be, because without the home builders, without the lenders, we're just sitting around swapping stories because we've got nothing to sell. So, and this is not a new thing. This is, I think we've been dealing with this issue for at least 20 years, possibly longer. I would suggest that somebody get real serious about talking with the home builders and the lenders and try to work through this. It may be possible, it may not be. But until they're okay, we manifestly are not okay.
Thank you. Any questions for the witness? Seeing none,
Thank you.
thank you. Next in opposition.
Good afternoon. Katie Gamble here on behalf of the American Resort Development Association, which are the timeshares. And just want to say we appreciate the efforts to ensure that the timeshares are not included unintentionally in the bill. There is some language in there that would still include them depending on the type of community that is set up around and as part of the timeshare. And so we just still have concerns in regards to that.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none. Next in opposition. Seeing none, informational purposes only. Seeing none, any final comments, Senator?
No, thank you for the time today.
Okay. Is that it? And this concludes our meeting on local government and elections. Have a great day.